No one ever asks that question out loud. In the Imperium, questions are dangerous things. They grow teeth. They bite back. So instead, people kneel. They bow their heads. They whisper prayers they were taught before they could even understand language. They believe what they are told to believe, because belief is safer than curiosity, and faith is lighter to carry than truth. But even faith has a cost. It always has. And this is the story of that cost. Every world in the Imperium knows the Emperor protects. His name is carved into stone, stitched into banners, burned into the minds of children before they learn their own. He is the God Emperor of mankind, the undying ruler of a million worlds, the light that keeps humanity from being swallowed by darkness. That is what we are told. That is what we repeat. That is what keeps the terror at bay when the sky burns green, or demons whisper through the walls, or ships vanish into the warp and never return. But protection is not free. Every single day, deep within the heart of holy Terra, the Emperor must be fed. Not with food, not with blood, with lives, with souls, thousands of them, quietly, efficiently, without ceremony, without remembrance. And the terrifying part, the part no one likes to dwell on, is that those lives are not criminals, or traitors, or heretics. They are ordinary people. They are citizens. They are believers. They are loyal. They are chosen. From the outside, sacrifice sounds noble. The word itself is wrapped in honor, polished by sermons and hymns. To be sacrificed to the Emperor is spoken of as the highest calling, the ultimate proof of devotion. A chance to serve humanity in its darkest hour. A chance to become something more than flesh. That is the lie. A lie so old and so carefully maintained that even those who enforce it sometimes believe it themselves. Because the truth is far less glorious. The truth is that sacrifice is not a gift given willingly. It is a debt collected when the Imperium decides you are more useful dead than alive. And when that moment comes, you do not ascend. You are consumed. No banners are raised for you. No songs are written in your name. Your family is not allowed to mourn you openly, because grief implies loss, and loss implies doubt. Doubt leads to heresy. So instead, they are told to be grateful. They are told to smile. They are told that you were chosen because you were worthy. And if they feel fear clawing at their chest in the middle of the night, they bury it deep and pray harder, because fear is weakness, and weakness is sin. You do not grow up knowing you will be sacrificed. Not exactly. The Imperium is far too clever for that. Instead, you grow up knowing it could happen. That possibility hangs over your life like a distant storm, always present, always visible on the horizon, but never close enough to feel real. Until it is. You are taught that the Emperor suffers endlessly for humanity. That his body is broken, his mind shattered, yet he endures so that mankind may live. You are told that your pain is insignificant compared to his. That your life is a single grain of sand against an ocean of necessity. Over time, that idea settles into your bones. You stop thinking of yourself as a person. You begin to think of yourself as a resource. That is how the Imperium wins. Not through chains or whips, but through acceptance. And yet, despite all the prayers, despite all the doctrine, there is a part of you, small, quiet, treasonous, that wonders. Wonders what it actually feels like. Wonders what happens after the selection, after the transport, after the long journey inward toward the center of the Imperium's faith. Wonders whether the Emperor knows your name. Wonders whether he feels gratitude. Wonders whether any part of you survives at all. No one answers those questions. Not because they cannot, but because to answer them would unravel everything. Because if people truly understood what sacrifice meant, if they truly knew what awaited those fed into the golden throne, the Imperium would crack. Faith would rot from the inside. And so the truth is hidden beneath ritual, beneath holy language, beneath layers of tradition so thick they feel eternal. This is not a story told to inspire you. It is not a tale of glory or salvation. It is a descent. A slow, suffocating realization of what it means to exist in a civilization that survives by burning its own people one soul at a time. This is not about heroes or villains. It is about machinery. Ancient, failing machinery that must be kept running no matter the cost. And by the end of this story, you will understand something most citizens never allow themselves to consider. The Emperor does not ask for sacrifice. He requires it. And once your name is chosen, once the Imperium decides that your soul is fuel, there is no prayer powerful enough to stop what comes next. Most people don't. That is by design. In the Imperium, obedience is not learned all at once. It is layered gently, patiently, until it feels like instinct. Long before anyone ever hears whispers of sacrifice, long before names are read or transports arrive, life itself is shaped to make the outcome inevitable. Because the Imperium does not take people by force. It raises them to offer themselves without realizing it. You are born into a world that belongs to the Emperor before it belongs to you. The air you breathe is taxed. The food you eat is counted. Even the hours of your life are measured and recorded in ledgers you will never see. Somewhere, in a vault or a data stack or a crumbling archive, your existence is reduced to numbers before you can even speak. Population quotas, production forecasts, tithe expectations, and buried among them, a far colder calculation, acceptable loss. From the moment you can understand words, you are taught gratitude. Gratitude for the Emperor's protection. Gratitude for surviving another day in a galaxy that hates you. Gratitude for the simple fact that your world still exists. Schools do not teach curiosity, they teach reverence. History is not a record of mistakes, but a litany of warnings about what happens when faith wavers. Every lesson ends the same way, with the Emperor watching, suffering, enduring, so that you do not have to. At first, sacrifice is only a word. A holy word. It appears in hymns sung by tired voices in echoing halls. It is carved into statues whose eyes seem to follow you as you pass. It is spoken with pride by preachers who remind you that mankind survives because some give everything. No one tells you who those some are. No one tells you where they go. Mystery, after all, makes belief easier. As you grow older, the stories sharpen. You hear about psykers taken for service. About ships that arrive full and leave empty. About families who receive a single stamped notice and never speak of it again. These things are never discussed openly. They are exchanged in whispers, in half-finished sentences, in the sudden hush that falls when an enforcer walks past. Fear exists, but it is an unspoken fear, shapeless, formless, easier to ignore than confront. The cleverest part of it all is how ordinary life continues. People fall in love, they work, they laugh, they plan futures they may never reach. The Imperium allows hope, because hope keeps the machinery running smoothly. You are encouraged to believe that if you work hard enough, pray fervently enough, keep your head down and your faith strong, the Emperor will look elsewhere. That sacrifice is random, necessary, but unlikely. A shadow that follows others, not you. And so you build a life inside that illusion. You watch neighbors disappear. Sometimes it is sudden, a knock at the door, a name spoken by someone in uniform, a short walk that leads away from everything familiar. Other times it is quieter. A person simply stops coming to work. Their dwelling is sealed. Their name is never mentioned again. The Imperium does not erase them publicly. It allows them to fade, because fading hurts less than loss. You tell yourself it has nothing to do with you. Everyone does. Even when the fear tightens, even when the thought creeps in late at night, you smother it with prayer. You remind yourself that the Emperor sees all. That he would not choose you without reason. That if the day ever comes, you will be ready. That is another lie you are taught, that readiness is possible. What no one explains is that sacrifice is not about worthiness or strength or purity. It is about numbers, balance, demand. Somewhere far beyond your world, beyond even your understanding, something is failing. And when it does, the Imperium does not ask who deserves to be taken. It asks how many. Your life unfolds beneath that silent calculation. Birthdays pass, faces age, Empires rise and fall in distant systems you will never hear about. And all the while, your name sits in a vast, uncaring sea of data, waiting for a moment when it becomes useful. The day you realize this, truly realize it, is the day childhood ends. Not because someone tells you the truth, but because you see it in the eyes of someone else. Someone who has been chosen. Someone who understands, in that terrible instant, that faith does not protect you. It only prepares you to accept what comes. They do not scream. They do not fight. They stand very still, as if any sudden movement might make the moment real. That is when you understand the true purpose of the Imperium's teachings. Not to inspire loyalty, but to prevent resistance. Because when your life has been shaped from the beginning to be expendable, there is no shock when it is finally taken. And somewhere deep inside you, a quiet certainty begins to form. One day, it will be your turn. No one ever tells you how the choosing happens. There is no ceremony, no thunder, no sign from the heavens. If the Emperor truly sees all, he gives no indication when his gaze settles on you. The Imperium prefers it that way. Mystery keeps panic contained. Precision keeps resistance impossible. The day your name is read begins like every other. That is the cruelest part. You wake to the same dim light, the same recycled air, the same routine drilled into you since childhood. You eat, you work, you pray. The world does not shudder. The sky does not darken. If this is the most important moment of your life, the universe does not bother to acknowledge it. Then the summons comes. It is not dramatic. A voice, flat and bored, speaks your name as if it were any other entry on a list. There is no explanation attached, no accusation to argue against. You are not told what you have done wrong, because you have done nothing wrong. Guilt is irrelevant. Only compliance matters now. People around you freeze, not in surprise, but in recognition. They have seen this before. Everyone has. Conversations stop. Eyes lower. No one meets your gaze, not because they hate you, but because looking too long feels dangerous. Contagious. As if fear itself might spread. You wait for someone to intervene. A supervisor. A clerk. A priest. Anyone. No one does. Authority does not need to assert itself when obedience is automatic. You are instructed to step forward. You do. There is a moment, brief, almost imperceptible, when you consider refusing. It lasts less than a heartbeat. Years of conditioning crush it instantly. Refusal is heresy. Resistance is treason. And worse than death is the knowledge that if you resist, others will suffer for it. Your family, your coworkers, anyone connected to you. The Imperium is very good at teaching collective responsibility. So you comply. Paperwork is completed. Your identity is verified. Your existence is reduced to forms stamped and filed with mechanical indifference. In those records, you are no longer a person. You are a unit being transferred. A resource reassigned. A line crossed off. The reactions around you are carefully controlled. Some people offer a stiff nod, a gesture of respect drilled into them by doctrine. Others murmur blessings they barely believe in, words said out of habit rather than conviction. No one embraces you. Physical closeness would make this too real. Emotion is a liability here. If your family is present, they do not cry. Not openly. They stand rigid, faces carefully blank, because grief in public draws attention, and attention invites scrutiny. They have been taught that pride is the correct response. Pride, and gratitude. Somewhere deep inside them, something breaks anyway. You are told you have been chosen for service to the Emperor. The phrase is delivered like a gift. You are expected to thank them. Many do. Some even mean it. Gratitude is easier than terror when terror has nowhere to go. You are given time, just enough to settle affairs, but not enough to escape. The Imperium is generous that way. You may return home. You may gather what few possessions are permitted. You may say your goodbyes, though everyone understands that goodbye is not the right word. It implies a meeting later. This is a farewell. At home, the walls feel closer than they ever have. Familiar objects seem distant, unreal, as if they belong to someone else now. You notice details you never cared about before, the way light catches dust in the air, the sound of distant machinery humming beneath the city. You wonder why these things matter so much now, when they never did before. Your family moves carefully around you. Conversations avoid the obvious. They talk about nothing, about weather systems, about work shifts, about anything except the fact that you will be gone soon. When someone finally breaks, when a voice cracks or a hand trembles, shame follows immediately. They apologize for their weakness. You reassure them, even as fear coils tighter inside your chest. That night, sleep does not come easily. When it does, it is shallow and broken, filled with half-remembered prayers and images of light you have never seen. You try to imagine what comes next. Ascension, communion, peace. The words feel hollow, but you cling to them anyway, because the alternative is unbearable. In the morning, they come for you. There is no second chance. No delay. You step outside knowing that every step carries you further from everything you have ever been. You look back once. Your home looks exactly the same. That is when you realize something terrifying. The world does not miss you already. And as you are led away, surrounded by quiet efficiency and practiced indifference, the full weight of it settles in. You have not been honored. You have been selected. The transport does not feel like a prison. There are no chains, no cages, no shouting guards demanding obedience. That would imply you are dangerous. You are not. You are already compliant, already resigned, already half-emptied of resistance before you ever step aboard. The Imperium does not waste force where faith will suffice. You are guided into a vast holding chamber along with hundreds, then thousands, of others. The scale is difficult to process at first. Faces blur together, a sea of quiet humanity drawn from countless worlds. Different accents, different skin tones, different ways of praying, yet the same expression sits behind all of it. The tight, controlled calm of people who know they are powerless and are trying not to think about it. No one explains where you are going. Everyone knows anyway. The air hums with low, constant vibration as the ship prepares for warp travel. Somewhere deep in the vessel, engines older than most civilizations begin to wake. The sound is not loud, but it is invasive, seeping into your bones, reminding you that movement has begun. That there is no turning back. At first, there is silence. People sit where they are told. They hold on to the few belongings they were allowed to bring, small, useless tokens of the lives they are leaving behind. A ring, a scrap of cloth, a prayer etched into metal. Objects that mean nothing to the Imperium and everything to the person clutching them. Eventually, someone speaks. It is always someone who can no longer tolerate the quiet. They do not ask where the ship is going. They ask how long it will take. No one answers. Time is a dangerous thing to think about now. Minutes stretch into hours, hours into something shapeless. Without windows, without landmarks, the passage of time becomes uncertain. Meals are provided at intervals that feel arbitrary. Sleep comes and goes in fragments. The ship moves, and you move with it, carried toward something none of you truly understand. Gradually, conversations begin to form. Soft at first, careful. People exchange names, as if saying them aloud might somehow preserve them. They talk about their home worlds. Hive cities layered mile upon mile. Agri worlds stretching to the horizon. Factory moons where the sky is always choked with smoke. The diversity is staggering, and deeply unsettling. This is not a single community being offered to the Emperor. It is a cross-section of humanity itself. Patterns emerge. No single world contributes all of its people. No culture is spared. The realization creeps in slowly, like a sickness. This is not punishment. This is maintenance. Some aboard the transport are psykers. You can sense them before they speak, nervous, withdrawn, eyes always unfocused as if listening to something no one else can hear. They know more than they say. They always do. When asked what awaits you, they hesitate. When pressed, their answers are fragmented, contradictory, wrapped in metaphor and fear. They speak of pressure, of heat, of something vast and screaming that never stops. Most people do not want to hear it. They prefer the old stories. Ascension, union with the Emperor, eternal service in his light. Faith hardens in the presence of uncertainty. It becomes defensive, aggressive. Some begin to pray louder, as if volume might drown out doubt. Others begin to crack. You see it in the small things first. Hands that shake too much to hold ration tins. Eyes that refuse to close even when exhaustion takes over. Sudden, inappropriate laughter that echoes too long in the enclosed space. The human mind is not designed to wait calmly for annihilation, even when it pretends otherwise. One day, if days still mean anything, the ship passes fully into the warp. You feel it immediately. The air feels wrong, heavier, thinner. Reality itself seems to bend, as if the universe has become slightly untrustworthy. Prayers increase. The psykers grow quieter. A few people scream in their sleep and cannot explain why when they wake. You realize then that even this journey is a test. Not of worth, but of endurance. Those who break too loudly are taken away. You do not see them again. No explanation is given. No one asks. As the voyage continues, a terrible understanding begins to settle among you. The Emperor is not waiting for individuals. He is waiting for numbers. For volume. For sustenance measured in thousands of lives per day. And this ship, this silent, obedient procession, is merely one of many. That thought changes something inside you. The idea of being special dies first. Then the idea of being chosen. What remains is the knowledge that you are part of a process so vast it does not notice your fear. The Imperium does not need your devotion anymore. It already has your body. Your soul will follow soon enough. When the ship finally slows, when the vibration of the engines changes and the long, terrible journey nears its end, no one celebrates. No one thanks the Emperor. Relief is replaced by a deeper, colder dread. Because whatever waits at the end of this journey is not a promise. It is a destination, and you can feel, with a certainty that chills you to the core, that once you arrive, nothing of you will ever leave again. Holy Terra does not welcome you. There is no warmth in its arrival, no sense of fulfillment or divine closeness. Not your own, at least, not entirely. It is distant, vast, and unending, like standing too close to an engine that has been screaming without rest for 10,000 years. It presses against your thoughts, not communicating, not acknowledging you, simply existing in a state of endless torment. The realization hits you slowly, and when it does, it is almost unbearable. This is what the Emperor endures. Not noble suffering, not serene martyrdom, but a constant, grinding agony so immense it leaks into the world around him. And suddenly, the sacrifices make a terrible kind of sense. Not as devotion, but as necessity. Something this broken cannot survive without being fed. You are led through halls that feel more like veins than corridors, each one carrying the lifeblood of the Imperium toward a single, terrible heart. The further you go, the quieter it becomes. Prayers fade. Footsteps echo too loudly. Even the officials who guide you speak less, their expressions tightening as if proximity itself demands restraint. Then the separation begins. Names are called, not shouted, not announced, simply spoken and acted upon. Groups are peeled away and led down different paths. You never learn why. There are no explanations left to give. The moment stretches unbearably as you wait to hear your own name again, knowing that each division brings you closer to something final. When your turn comes, there is no ceremony. You step forward because that is what you have been trained to do. You do not look back. There is nothing left behind you now except people you will never see again, walking toward fates that may be just as final as yours. As the doors close behind you, sealing you off from the last remnants of the world you knew, the truth settles fully into place. Holy Terra is not a sanctuary. It is a machine, and you are no longer a pilgrim within it. You are fuel. They do not call it preparation. That word would suggest care, or dignity, or choice. Instead, it is referred to as purification, calibration, readiness. Terms stripped of emotion, designed to make what follows sound necessary rather than horrific. By the time you are brought into the inner sanctums, language itself has been weaponized against you. You are led into chambers that feel less like places of worship and more like surgical theaters. The air is cold, dry, and painfully clean, scrubbed of all traces of individuality. Here, everyone looks the same. Shaved, stripped, reduced. Clothing is taken without ceremony, folded away as if it no longer belongs to anyone. In that moment, something inside you recoils, not at the loss of modesty, but at the loss of ownership. Your body is no longer yours. Machines descend, arms unfold, needles hum to life. There is no explanation, because explanation implies consent. You are scanned, measured, catalogued. Every flaw is noted. Every strength is weighed. Your mind is probed with clinical precision, thoughts peeled back layer by mechanisms that do not care what they find. Memories surface unbidden, childhood moments, half-forgotten joys, regrets you buried years ago. You realize, with growing dread, that nothing is private anymore. For psykers, this process is worse. You see it in their faces as they are taken aside, the raw terror barely contained beneath years of discipline. They are handled with greater caution, greater interest. They are more valuable. That knowledge does not comfort them. It terrifies them. Because value, in this place, does not mean survival. Whispers circulate among you now. Not the hopeful kind. Fragments of truth slip through the cracks, passed from one doomed soul to another. There is no ascension, someone says. No unity. Another insists that the emperor does not speak because he cannot, not anymore. A third claims that the sacrifices do not end cleanly, that consciousness lingers longer than it should. You try not to listen. Belief has been your shield your entire life, thin as it is. To let it fail now would leave you naked in a way no machine ever could. During the rituals, if they can be called that, you are instructed to repeat prayers you have known since childhood. The words feel wrong here, hollow and echoing, stripped of the comfort they once provided. You begin to notice something unsettling. The priests do not meet your eyes. The attendants move quickly, efficiently, as if lingering might invite something they would rather not acknowledge. At some point, you understand why. This place is not about holiness. It is about compatibility. You are not being prepared to meet a god. You are being optimized to be consumed by one. Every step is designed to ensure maximum transfer, minimal loss. Even suffering is regulated. Too much, and the mind fractures prematurely. Too little, and resistance remains. They walk a careful line, one refined over millennia. The life finally collapses when you are shown a fragment of the truth, not deliberately, but carelessly. A glimpse of a chamber beyond, filled with machinery too vast and too ancient to comprehend. You feel it then, unmistakably, souls being drawn away, screaming without sound, unraveling under a force they were never meant to endure. There is no gentle merging, no peaceful release. There is extraction. Your hands tremble. You try to pray, but the words catch in your throat. You realize that everything you were taught about sacrifice was designed to make this moment possible. To bring you here without resistance. To keep you standing, compliant, even now. A priest finally speaks to you directly. Not with reverence, but with exhaustion. He tells you that your fear is natural. That your suffering will be brief. That the emperor needs you. The words feel rehearsed, worn thin by repetition. He does not tell you what you want to know. He does not tell you if any part of you will remain. As you are led away, deeper still, the walls seem to close in, heavy with the knowledge of what has already happened here millions of times before. You begin to understand that the Golden Throne is not a seat of power. It is an engine, and you are about to be fed into it. You feel the Emperor before you or anywhere near him. It is not a presence in the way you imagined, not a voice, not a figure, not even a thought that can be grasped. It is pressure. Immense, crushing pressure, like standing beneath an ocean made of thought and pain. The closer you are led toward the heart of the Imperial Palace, the harder it becomes to breathe, not because the air is thin, but because your mind is struggling to exist in the same space as something so vast and broken. The corridors here are different. Older. Less repaired. The stone is darkened by age and psychic residue that no amount of incense can cleanse. Machines line the walls like parasites feeding off a dying god, their cables disappearing into depths you cannot see. Every step forward feels like trespass, as though you are walking into a place humanity was never meant to reach. Your thoughts begin to misbehave. Memories surface without warning, looping and colliding, moments from your life dragged into the open and held there. You try to focus, to ground yourself, but the Emperor's proximity strips away the boundaries that kept your mind intact. You realize, with creeping horror, that privacy is impossible here. Whatever the Emperor is now, he is aware, not of you as an individual, but of everything you are made of. For the first time, doubt gives way to certainty. This is not divinity. This is survival through suffering. You catch glimpses of others ahead of you. Their movements stiff, their expressions vacant. Some are weeping silently. Others stare forward, eyes unfocused, as if already halfway gone. A few scream. The sound does not carry far. Something in the air smothers it, devours it before it can echo. Then you feel his pain fully. It is not a single sensation, but a symphony of agony layered atop itself. Physical decay, psychic strain, endless awareness without relief. The Emperor is not resting. He is not dreaming. He is trapped in a perpetual moment of dying that never completes. And worse than the pain itself is the knowledge that he knows exactly why it continues. Because humanity demands it. Because the Imperium feeds him, soul by soul, to keep the light burning just a little longer. Your faith shatters under the weight of that realization. Not because the Emperor is false, but because the truth is so much worse. He is real. He is suffering. And everything you were taught was designed to justify prolonging that suffering at any cost. The machinery grows louder now. A deep, rhythmic hum pulses through the floor, through your bones, through the core of your being. You understand, dimly, that this is the sound of souls being processed, converted into something the Emperor can use. The scale of it is incomprehensible. Thousands per day, millions over centuries, an endless tide of lives dissolving to sustain a single, immobile existence. As you are brought to the threshold, the pressure becomes unbearable. You feel yourself stretching, thinning, as if your identity is being pulled apart before the process even begins. Your thoughts slow, then race, then fracture. You try to remember your name. It slips away. You cling to faces, voices, moments of warmth, but they fade under the relentless psychic glare. And in that moment, you understand something the Imperium never intended you to know. The Emperor does not want this. Buried beneath layers of agony and machinery, beneath 10,000 years of enforced survival, there is a vast, exhausted will that longs for release. Not for power, not for worship, for an end. And that knowledge is the most terrible thing of all. Because it means your sacrifice is not salvation. It is cruelty made routine. As you are guided into position, surrounded by conduits and mechanisms that hum with hungry anticipation, the last illusion finally dies. You are not about to meet a god. You are about to be used. There is a moment, brief, fragile, almost merciful, when everything slows. You are positioned among countless others, arranged with mechanical precision, each of you another component in a vast, living equation. Restraints close around your body, not painfully, but firmly enough to make resistance meaningless. You are aware of the machinery now in intimate detail, the low thrum of power, the whisper of energy moving through conduits, the faint crackle that makes your skin prickle as if anticipating what is to come. This is the last moment in which you are entirely yourself. You try to focus on something, anything, that might anchor you. A memory, a sensation, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of someone saying your name with kindness. But the closer the process begins, the harder it becomes to hold on to such things. The Emperor's presence presses inward, unraveling you thread by thread, exposing every fear, every regret, every unspoken thought you carried through your life. There is no countdown, no warning. When it begins, it is not pain at first. It is extraction. You feel a pulling sensation, not from your body, but from somewhere deeper, something essential being drawn out through paths you never knew existed. Your thoughts scatter as that pull intensifies. Memories fracture, replaying out of order, stripped of context. You relive moments you had forgotten, then moments you wished you could forget, all of them dragged into the open and torn apart. Then the pain arrives. It is not sharp or sudden. It builds relentlessly, a pressure that expands until it fills everything you are. You cannot scream. You cannot move. Even if you could, it would change nothing. Your consciousness stretches, thins, becomes something fragile and translucent, held together by will alone. You realize, dimly, that this is intentional. The process is designed to keep you aware as long as possible. Time loses meaning. Seconds feel like lifetimes. Lifetimes collapse into instants. You exist in a state of endless falling, being pulled apart while never fully breaking. Part of you expects release, death, oblivion, something. It does not come. Instead, you feel yourself being absorbed. Not merged. Not welcomed. Consumed. The Emperor's awareness brushes against what remains of you, vast and impersonal. There is no recognition, no gratitude. If there is acknowledgement at all, it is no more than the sensation of fuel entering a fire. Necessary. Used. Gone. And yet, something of you persists. A fragment. A residue. A fading echo of thought that cannot quite dissolve. You are no longer whole, no longer human, but you are not nothing. You are caught in the machinery of a God that cannot die, stretched across an eternity of pain that is not yours, but now includes you. You understand then why no one ever returns. Why there are no visions, no messages from beyond. There is no beyond. There is only this, an endless, lightless existence as part of something too vast to care that you ever lived. The final cruelty is awareness. As what remains of you fades further, losing coherence, losing definition, a single, desperate thought surfaces, unbidden, unstoppable. You want to be remembered. But memory requires minds, and the Emperor has none left to spare. Your name dissolves. Your face vanishes. The last remnants of who you were scatter into the Golden Throne's endless hunger. And somewhere far away, on a world that will never know what truly happened to you, the machinery of the Imperium continues to turn. The Emperor endures. Because you did not. What remains of you does not pass on. That is the final, unspoken truth, the one buried beneath all others. Death, as you understood it, would have been a mercy. An ending, a clean division between what you were and what comes after. But the Golden Throne does not grant endings. It preserves fragments, echoes, impressions of consciousness stretched so thin they barely qualify as thought, yet refuse to disappear entirely. You are no longer aware in any human sense. There is no body to feel, no time to measure, no language to shape meaning. And yet, something persists. A pressure. A sense of continuity without identity. Like a scream held forever at the edge of silence. Around you, though, around, no longer means anything, you sense others. Not as individuals, but as distortions, overlapping impressions of what once were people. Countless fragments, layered and entangled, all bound into the same impossible structure. You realize that the Emperor is not alone in his suffering. He is crowded. The Golden Throne is not merely sustained by sacrifice. It is haunted by it. Every soul fed into the machinery leaves a trace, a psychic residue that cannot be fully consumed. Over millennia, these remnants have accumulated, forming a vast, incoherent mass of broken awareness, all pressed into service, all unable to escape. Through that shared distortion, understanding dawns, not as revelation, but as inevitability. The Emperor is not ruling the Imperium. He is containing it. His will, what little remains of it, is locked in a perpetual struggle, not to command, not to guide, but to prevent collapse. The Astronomicon burns because it must. The warp is held at bay because there is no alternative. And the cost of that fragile stability is paid in pieces of consciousness like yours, ground down and burned until only enough remains to keep the light alive. You feel the Emperor then, not as a god, but as something tragically human, stretched beyond all limits. His suffering is not noble. It is administrative, endless maintenance of a system that should have failed long ago. And the worst part is that he cannot stop. To release himself would doom humanity. To continue is to perpetuate unimaginable cruelty. The fragments around you shift, resonate faintly. There is no communication, but there is recognition. Shared understanding without words. Every remnant here knows the same truth. None of this was meant to last this long. The Imperium was supposed to be temporary. A bridge. A desperate measure. It became a monument instead. If you could still feel despair, it would overwhelm you now. The realization that your life, your suffering, your erasure achieved nothing lasting. The Emperor endures, yes, but only for another day, another moment, another cycle of sacrifice. The end has merely been postponed, paid for with an ocean of souls. And somewhere in the vastness of this broken awareness, you sense something else. Cracks. The machinery falters. The strain increases. The light flickers, not enough to notice from afar, but enough to feel from within. Even with all this fuel, all this suffering, the system is failing. Entropy cannot be cheated forever. The Emperor is not being saved. He is being prolonged. That understanding settles into what remains of you like a final weight. You are not part of salvation. You are part of a delay. A brief, meaningless extension in a process that will eventually collapse no matter how many souls are fed into it. And yet, the Imperium will not stop. Because stopping would mean admitting the truth. That the greatest sacrifice in human history has not been made by the Emperor. It has been made by everyone else. And so the fragments endure. The throne hums. The light burns on, not because it is just, but because there is nothing left that knows how to let it die. What remains of you fades, not all at once, but unevenly, like embers cooling in the dark. Thought becomes thinner. Awareness loosens its grip. Even the shared distortion of the throne begins to slip beyond reach. If this is an ending, it is not one you recognize. It is not peace. It is simply less. Far beyond the walls of the Imperial Palace, life continues exactly as it always has. On distant worlds, citizens wake to the sound of work sirens and prayer bells. Children recite litanies they do not understand. Soldiers march beneath banners bearing a face they have never seen. Priests preach of duty, of faith, of the Emperor's eternal vigilance. And somewhere, deep in the machinery of Terra, the Astronomicon burns a fraction brighter, fueled by what is left of you and countless others like you. No one speaks your name. There is no record of what you truly gave, only that a requirement was met. A quota fulfilled. A system stabilized for another day. The Imperium does not remember individuals. It remembers numbers. That is how it survives. That is how it justifies itself. If the Emperor feels anything of you now, it is not gratitude. It is not sorrow. It is not recognition. What remains of his will is focused entirely on holding back the dark, on enduring one more impossible moment. You are already gone from that struggle, dissolved into the endless background of suffering that sustains it. And yet, the light persists. Across the Imperium, people continue to believe that sacrifice is holy. That those chosen are blessed. That the Emperor watches over them with love and purpose. The truth would break them. So the truth is buried beneath ritual, beneath fear, beneath the comforting idea that cruelty must be meaningful if it is widespread enough. Perhaps that is the final function of the Golden Throne, not just to keep the Emperor alive, but to keep humanity from facing what it has become. Because if people truly understood what it is like to be sacrificed, if they knew that there is no ascension, no peace, no reward, then faith would collapse under its own weight. And without faith, the Imperium would have nothing left to hold it together. So the machine continues. Thousands will be chosen tomorrow. Thousands the day after. Endless lives drawn quietly into the heart of Terra, fed into a god who cannot die and cannot live. The Emperor will endure. The Imperium will survive, at least for a while.